back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Marley and today's video is going to be a true crime video. So first of all, I wanted to just say sorry for my absence. I've been gone for like a few months. Basically I've just had no motivation, but I'm here now, so that's all that matters. So today's case is going to be about Mikhail Popkov in Russia, and this guy, let me just say, researching this guy was honestly terrifying. Like, the things that he would do to people, like, I was actually researching, like, I don't know whether I can actually do this case because it's actually making my stomach churn. So Mikhail was born on the 7th of March 1964. Not much is really known about his early life. It is said that his mother was an abusive alcoholic, and this definitely seems to come into play later on in his life, as you will hear when I tell you about it. He got married to a lady called Elena Popkova, I think it was, and they had a daughter together called Ekaterina, and they lived in, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Irkutsk, Angarsk Oblast in Russia. And basically Mikhail had experience working within the police force and also as like a private security guard. When people spoke about Mikhail, they all said that he was a really loving, devoted father. People in his workforce said that he was morally upstanding, he was really funny, he was just an all-round nice guy. And when it came to light about what crimes he'd been committing, nobody could believe it because they just didn't think that Mikhail was this type of person. But even Mikhail has said he was living a double life. So Mikhail was actually nicknamed the Wednesday murder because a lot of the murders seemed to happen on a Wednesday morning, and he was also nicknamed the Werewolf murderer because his crimes were just so gruesome that it was, you know, to be compared to something like a werewolf or monster. So Mikhail's crimes apparently stemmed from, well, obviously we heard about the alcoholic mother who abused him, and then he also had thought that his wife was cheating on him. I'm guessing that there were like rumours or he had found something. So this is kind of what is believed to have kick-started the crimes. Most of his victims were females, apart from one victim who was a male, and he was actually a fellow police officer. Majority of the victims, well, all the victims were from ages 16 to 40 years old, and a lot of them were sex workers, people who were addicted to drugs, drunk women. Also, some of them were just typical family people. They had children, husbands, you know, but he basically had said that he wanted to clean the city and rid them of all the immoral women, and people he saw immoral were sex workers. Basically, he was just misogynistic. He didn't like women. He just didn't like women. So Mikhail was killing people from 1992, and it was believed up until 2010, but then there is also a possibility that it could have been up until 2012 that he was killing people. And basically how it started is that one night he had offered a woman a ride home. He picked her up and he just said that he got the urge to kill her, so that's what he did. And he got away with it, so he felt more powerful. He felt, you know, I can get away with this, so I can kill more people. What he would do is he would pick up people, you know, people who would see him in his police officer uniform and think, oh, you know, I can trust him, he's a police officer. He would drive them out of town into the woods. He would actually assault them, and he would then, yeah, torture them, assault them, and then kill them with whatever weapons he could find: axes, baseball bats, screwdrivers, knives. I heard that he also used ropes, and then he would basically just dump their bodies. So like I'd mentioned, Popkov claimed that he was cleaning the city of fallen women, so fallen woman being the type of woman that he would typically kill. It was actually said that, well, he would usually kill people who were alone. Obviously they were easier to kill, but one night he did go for 2 women. After he had killed the first one, the second one managed to get away, but really unfortunate that he actually caught up to her, and he killed her. And then he had accidentally dropped his police badge in the attack, so he had to go back and retrieve it, so obviously nobody would guess that it was him who had done this killing. So it gets really sadistic because Mikhail actually gave his daughter money towards the funeral costs of one of his victims that he had killed. So the daughter had obviously seen that somebody was raising money for the victims for her funeral, as she was a music teacher, and yeah, Popkov gave his daughter money. So as you can imagine, many psychologists looked into and assessed Popkov, and they actually found that he did not have any mental disorders, any mental issues at all. He literally just chose to commit these crimes out of, well, one of them said that it was literally out of misogyny, like he just hated women, and I'm guessing this had stemmed from his childhood with his experience from his mother, and then again his hatred, you know, carried on when he believed that his wife was having an affair. At least 10 of Popkov's victims were raped, and he actually had even stabbed one of the victims 170 times. So you can tell how much of a fueled hate and how much anger went into his crimes. It was, one headline had actually claimed that he had ripped a woman's heart out, but this couldn't be confirmed. This could just be a sensationalized headline, but I have seen this on several sources, so who knows. So one of his victims actually miraculously survived. He had picked her up one night, did his usual attack, and he had actually smashed her head into a tree. This obviously knocked her out, and I'm guessing Popkov thought she was dead, otherwise I doubt he would have left her. She actually woke up the next day in the hospital. She had been exposed to the elements all night. She was cold, bruised, and it's actually really crazy that she survived, thankfully. She managed to identify Popkov as the person who did attack her, like in a lineup, but the police didn't believe her. I'm guessing because you know, the police officers were Popkov's colleagues, so they didn't believe that it was him. And to add to this, his wife, Popkov's wife Alina, actually provided an alibi for him, you know, said that she was with him or she knew where he was, whatever, and then he was free to walk loose. And you can just imagine how much more power this gave him, and how he felt even more so he could get away with his crimes. So this probably just spurred him on even more, and I can't imagine how the victim must have felt knowing that she had identified her attacker and nothing had been done about it at that time. He had just been left to walk free. I can't imagine how terrifying that must have been after the courage that she had to come forward about him. She could have just, you know, said, oh, I don't know who it was, but she actually chose to come forward, and then she was just not believed. So yeah, really horrible for her. So Popkov's car actually left tyre marks, and these tyre marks were left next to some of his victims' bodies, so I'm guessing he literally just left the body there, drove away, must have parked pretty close by. And eventually his DNA was, you know, they had obviously picked up his DNA, scanned his DNA, scanned it with the victim's DNA, what DNA was on them, etc. And it came back that it was him. Well, first of all, it didn't come back it was him. The police, what they had to do is they had to go through everybody who had the exact same car type as him, or, you know, as the attacker at the time, because they didn't know who it was at the time. It came back that it was Popkov eventually. So he was actually arrested whilst he was on his way to another city. I can't pronounce the name. And he was going there to buy a new car, and he was arrested then. He then confessed to 20 murders in 2015. In 2015 he was convicted of 22 murders. So he initially confessed to 20, and then he was convicted of 22. He was sentenced to a life sentence in prison, but then he was kept on remand because the investigation was still going, and obviously they were finding new evidence and stuff. 3 years later, he then confessed to 56 more murders on top of the original 20 he had confessed to. He was actually then found guilty of 56 of the 59 extra murders that he had confessed to, and he was found guilty of those on December the 10th, 2018. So he was then sentenced to another life sentence on top of the one that he was already ordered to have for the first 22 murders. He's, I believe, still in prison to this day. He managed to avoid any capital punishment because Russia actually doesn't allow capital punishment. I thought they did, but they must have changed their laws. And in total, he confessed to 83 murders in total. 83 murders. I just can't even get my head around how that happened. How were 83 people killed? And, you know, he wasn't stopped or found. He actually ended up being only convicted for 78 of the murders because I don't think they had evidence for the rest. But it's actually believed that Popkov wasn't fabricating the amount of murders. Like, he actually genuinely, it's believed that he genuinely did commit 83 murders. Believed that he didn't fabricate it. I did see on one article that he said that he confessed to them all murders because he wanted time out of jail, like to go to the courthouse and stuff, I guess, and to leave people where the bodies were, or where he murdered people. But yeah, he was only convicted of 78 in the end, but yeah. And it was actually said that his daughter didn't believe he could be the attacker. You know, obviously people have been hearing about this attacker who'd been going around. She didn't believe it could be him because obviously she'd known him as this loving, like, father. And, you know, I can't even imagine how you begin to comprehend that your parent especially has killed, attacked, tortured, you know, humiliated so many people and made them into victims and affected. Can you imagine? He's affected 83 families because he didn't like women, or he didn't like women who had certain careers or had certain ways of living. You know, it's just crazy. And he's been compared to another famous serial killer. I can't remember the exact name. If I can find it, I will put it on the screen. But it's just nuts to me. And really, I just hope he's rotting in jail and that he's never, well, he won't get out ever again. So yeah, that is that story, guys. It was a little bit of a short video, so I do apologise for that, but there wasn't as much information on this case as there would have been other cases, like more famous cases. But excuse me, comment down below if you do want to see any more true crime cases. I love true crime. It's one of my hobbies, not hobbies, it's one of my interests, and so I'll gladly research and make another video. But yeah, just let me know down below. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in my next video, and have a great week. Bye, guys.